You're listening to Beyond Insights, your go-to podcast for all things accounting, business, and technology.
From cybersecurity and AI innovations to sustainability and work-life balance, we've got you covered.
We host insightful guests from different backgrounds, industries, and locations all around the world.
From this diversity of thought, we aim to find solutions to some of our most pressing business problems.
Thank you for tuning in. Let's dive right in and go beyond insights. Hi everyone, and welcome to Beyond Insights. Today we are talking about a very, very exciting topic, and that's moving businesses from reactive to proactive. And today we have a very special guest, Spencer Jones, who's going to tell us a bit more about that. So welcome, Spencer. Thank you so much for joining us. Very excited to hear your insights. So to get started, sorry, I saw a raised hand. To just get started, Spencer, can you just tell us a bit about yourself and your background and get us started?
I am in Tennessee in the United States and kind of near the mountains, and we're in a beautiful spot. So because of that, I like the outdoors. So we spend any time when we're not in numbers and in reporting and advising, and I'm outside, I'm running or watching my boys play soccer or running too. I have one in track and field and one in soccer, so that keeps us busy. And and we've been a bit of an entrepreneur. That was how I got started. We owned an event rental company and started that, and then we owned a restaurant and started that with some college students, and that was really fun. So then finally landed on accounting. So
cool. So it sounds like you have lots of business experience as well, not just the accounting side. You've actually got your hands dirty in running businesses yourself. So you run Proact CFO. So maybe if you can just tell us a bit of the story behind Proact CFO, how it started, what it's all about.
Well, we've been in business about 12 years, and I've been in accounting pretty much off and on for several years before that. But we, like most people, it's an opportunity and just being in the right place to respond at the right time. And I had a closed door, actually. I was teaching in finance and accounting at a college, at a university. And they actually downsized, and we had right before COVID, it's a little bit longer before that. But so they downsized, and then I had a friend at the same time that wanted to start an optometry practice. He had just finished medical school, and he said, "Hey, I need some help with this." And so he became our first client, and that's how we started the practice. So that's our story, and we've it's funny. I like to explain why the name too, because Proact CFO. I have to spell it out a lot. It's kind of funny. How do you spell that? So but Proact is really it's to take that word is a word. You hear proactive, and then there's Proact, and that's actually to take action in advance of an expected event. And that's really what we wanted to design the firm around, was thinking ahead and being able to react in real time and plan, and not just look at historical data.
Oh, I think it's amazing. I love the name. I was very excited when I heard it. I think mainly because I think that is what a lot of people struggle with accounting. I don't know if it was the same for you, but when I was studying accounting, there was this battle between financial accounting and managerial accounting. And financial accounting always told us, no, we're important because you need us for your taxes and, to report. And management accounting said financial accounting is old, the data's so old, no one cares about it, it's not relevant anymore. And I think today with cloud accounting, the two have merged, and you can have your reporting real time. But anyways, I ramble on, but I think why it's so important is because, as you say, you are, being proactive about understanding what's happening so that you can react. You can do something about it and plan. And as accountants, I think that's our superpower. If we can really help clients and businesses do that. I think it's very, very exciting. And interesting how you ended up in accounting because of something that maybe seemed bad at the time, like downsizing. I think it's cool how journeys go like that. So yeah, for someone who's thinking of transitioning into practice, or who has a practice and wants to see, what does a day in your life look like?
I try to be purposeful in the day, and the more you read about leadership too, you'll kind of that helps shape what your day looks like. And I've learned the more I've dug into leadership, it's you have to cut out time for strategy and for leadership and strategy time. And so I try to make that the first hour of my day. If you don't do that, you're busy. We all get into the technician role of just doing, getting done what we have to get done on our task list for the day. And so I've tried to be purposeful. That first hour, I realize it's quiet and you can get a lot of tasks done, but you've got to fit that strategy in at some point. And so that first hour for me is like, that's when I work on SOPs or marketing strategy or the team strategy. That's when we fit that in. And then about half of the day, but our practice is a little bit different, that we have a lot of coaching built into that fractional CFO model. So that's about half the day. It's just answering phone calls or video calls and advising. And then really there's the smallest part is the technician part, where you're just getting tasks done. And sometimes that gets a little behind, because of that. so
I think that's probably, a kind of a mind shift for a lot of accountants, or maybe students thinking of accounting, because I think they probably think that the bulk of their day is what you make the last part of your day. So kind of cool to see that the advising and interacting with people is actually bigger. And I really like what you say about that strategy. So I'm very guilty of this. I plan to get into the office early so I can do that, and then we have people in the office from 4 a.m. till 11 p.m. So it's always busy. And so I think I need to take that tip and be more proactive about taking time for that strategy, because otherwise that's the kind of the thing that there's no deadline on it, right? So you can just never do it, but obviously you will suffer because it's so important. So now we know what your day looks like. What is your favorite part of your job?
Well, the favorite part, I enjoy working with the team, and I think that comes from being a former teacher. I love the instructing and coaching, and that starts with our team. And if you ask them, they might say just he's average, but I'm working on that part. so that part, but I love it with the team, and that part of that is like, Jim Collins had a book, Good to Great, and it's quoted a lot, but it's really he teaches you to focus on the right person in the right seat, and in your organization. And so I love that part is finding that right role in the right seat, and we're always working on that. And then, but that, because of that same teaching, the teaching role and the history with that, I love that part of working with clients too, is just really like advising and coaching and encouraging them to like figuring out their goals, and then encouraging them the best we can towards reaching those goals. So yeah, that's what I think is fun. And then I have to say I'm a bit of a tech nerd too. So, if SIF sends out some updates, for I love to look at the technical updates and play around with those. So.
Amazing. I'm glad. I also enjoy when there's a new update. But I think, that educator, I also love education. I think it's all about developing people. And I think that's often underestimated in accounting practices. Your people really are so important, but also the relationship with the client. Like what you're explaining there is really helping businesses grow. And that to me is what advisory is all about. Really, really love how you explained those. So in terms of, your practice and being in the accounting industry, what's really changed since you started over the time? And, good, bad, what are the changes you've noticed?
Well, a couple of things. One follows with just that data part. Data management to me has really changed, and data security, and that now, because we don't store, we operate a paperless practice, so we don't store. We don't try not to have any paper whatsoever. As soon as we get anything in the mail, even it's scanned in. So that's really changed. Like we have this data management role, and that was not really something that accounting firms used to have. It's there were file cabinets and you kept paper copies of things, but now you have to decide like how you organize that, what's your structure for organizing it, and how do you make it available to clients, and that's really important. And there's so much data. I know a lot of us could relate to that. How much you just have personally, when you have insurance policies and you have things that are expiring and audits and taxes, and you've got this whole database just for your own personal data. But now we have that in a firm, and we have it for each company and each owner, and that's a lot of data, and you need the least amount of friction between that data and it being useful. Yeah, and I feel like that's really our challenge now, is how to manage that and make it useful, get it into the right person's hands if it's the client, and and quickly. So
sure, yeah, I think like you also need to make sure it's secure. So I do auditing lectures as well. It's all about controls and stuff. And I think in the past you could lock the filing cabinets, but now it's a bit more complicated than that. But also so much more opportunity. Like as you say, the whole challenge now is how can we use that data? In the past, it was not really usable in like piles and piles of filing cabinets. I mean, you could use it, but it was difficult. So yeah, I think that definitely is the new challenge, almost, to how to get the value out of that data, which I think leads me. Oh yeah.
You mentioned value too. That's the other shift I've seen, is like the change in how you even price your services, and package those. Like it used to be, like you said that word value, like you're providing value. Now that's the other shift I've seen, is that we're really pushing like what is the value we provide and what's the pricing for that value versus just an hourly rate plus some kind of cost. That's hard to that's but if you're going to shift to that kind of model and that value-based pricing model that we see now, that really is like how do you have to provide the value. So it's how do you make some meaningful recommendations out of that data we're managing now.
No, for sure. I think that's a common theme as well. Is a lot of the stuff that used to take a lot of time, like processing all that data, clients actually don't value that. They don't really, you're inputting all their data into the system. They're like, yeah, the transaction happened, So you need to use tech, like you're saying, all these cool new tools and all these systems to make that take you less time, because time is your cost. But what they value is this advisory or the insights. And as soon as they see, oh, wait, you told me something, it's going to help grow my business, now they're willing to actually pay. So yeah, definitely a shift we see as well. Very, very cool. So also, you explained that you are Proact CFO. So why do you think it's so important for businesses to be proactive about their finances?
Well, there's a quarterly survey that Deloitte publishes. They're one of the largest accounting services firms, and it's called CFO Signals. And it had in this last quarter, it had a question and they asked, and I think it's something they do recurring, but it said, what is the top concern for CFOs? And the answer, overwhelmingly, it was like over 60% said they rank the economy as their top like external risk, and so people worried about and really if you're saying that, you're worried about the future, so you're worried about, if this industry I'm in changes or the service I provide is relevant or not relevant, like how do I react to that? How do I shift? And that really is the essence of being proactive, is if this is the biggest concern, I've got to be able to react in real time. And that's what's been important for us. Like it's funny, like my first fractional CFO role, I was sitting in a room. I'd been in a couple of months in, and I was sitting in a room in a meeting, and it was a financial statement review meeting, but it was occurring in September for the prior year's financials. So it was a firm that it was a tax prep CPA firm, and they had come in to do the review in September for the prior year, and I was sitting there thinking it took like 2 hours, and I was thinking like, what value are we seeing in this? Like, goodness, this is this is, if you think about all the way back to like January of that prior year, you're talking about data that's over a year old, and I was thinking like, how do what can we do, what can we do with this? How can we take any action from it? And really, the answer on that was like, there's not much we can do. It happened. It's over a year old. So it really hit me. That was one of the first examples. Is like, I've got to figure out how to help the client respond in real time rather than
Yeah, because if you're making a mistake, you want to know about that mistake now, not 9 months later when you've got 9 months more mistake. That makes a lot of sense. So what do you think many businesses are still struggling with or missing out on when it comes to, their finances or how they run?
Well, I think a lot gets stuck at certain levels, and we all feel that in whatever organization we're trying to build. And there's usually some ceiling, and there's a reason for that ceiling, and it's depending on, there are different reasons for that, but a lot of times it's, we have to push on the strategic education we have. We're limited by the strongest leader in our organization is also our limit to how we're going to grow, and our job is to help educate that leader so they'll push a little bit farther, because we need them to do that in order to grow the business. And I notice, so one of the things I'll catch, and really it just happens from experience over time, is to catch like, okay, what if they're approaching this limit, if they've slowed or they've been stagnant or they've kind of gone up and down, we don't see like growth. What is it that's causing them to get stuck? And a lot of times when you get that way, you get kind of panicky and you're looking around for like, what is it I need to change now? And so you'll notice like leaders will get stuck on maybe like, how do we save on taxes, or how do we save on, that's one of the most common ones, and that one I try to get them to shift that focus from, okay, you're looking at, these are some symptoms or some things that happen, like if taxes, for example, are actually a good thing. I know it sounds funny, but if in the respect of
means you're making money.
means you're making money, yes. so taxes are a good thing. We're making money, so we try to get them to focus on it. Because if it's okay, let's not dig our wheels into something that we're going to spend 8 hours of your valuable time, an hour valuable time. Well, that's underestimated, but lots of hours. And let's look at something of, well, maybe it's the way that you're estimating, or it's your cost of goods. You haven't kept up with pricing for, your labor cost or your materials costs, or there's something that we can do to really adjust and pivot and do it more in, like I said, in real time as well. So,
no, amazing. I think it's going kind of beyond to understand what's happening in your business now. Where are the issues, like you say, cost or something like that, and then making a decision about it, like better data-driven decisions. That's what we always say at Zift. It can't be months and months old. So definitely very important. I think then I wanted to just also ask, linked to what we've been chatting about. So you're talking about fractional CFO, outsourcing CFO. So it's very topical. We hear a lot of people talking about it. Also, I think a lot of accountants are looking to move into that advisory space, or businesses are wondering why they need a fractional CFO. So maybe could you just, describe what does that mean? What is it? And why do you think businesses would need one? And why would they choose an outsourced one as opposed to an in-house one? So lots of questions.
Yes. Well, and of course, I'm pro fractional CFO.
Of course. Maybe slightly biased answer here. But no, I think you'll give us an honest one. It's good.
Yeah. So really, the way our selling point for that is, you're with a fractional. Most businesses now don't, and nonprofits don't need a full-time CFO. They need the expertise of a CFO, but they don't need the full-time. And really, a lot of times they can't afford it either. If it's in the U.S., a full-time CFO, the starting salary range is like $225,000. Kind of is that starting, hourly. I mean, not hourly, but salary range for an actual CFO. So you think of how many people can start. It just pushes that out of how early you can start to pay for that level of expertise. So we really, that's our selling point, is that you get that level, the CFO, fractional CFO, and the functions that go along with that, which are, benefits and, insurance and financing, like those kind of things that normally a CFO would handle. You get that piece of that service for about the time that you need it for a much lower cost than actually having to find someone to fill that role in-house.
Amazing. And I think, lots of startups can't afford that very big salary. So that makes sense. I think you've kind of explained, what they do and why you would choose one. So I think maybe linking to that, a lot of business owners kind of don't know how to start, where to start to get an accountant, and leave it too late in the game. So do you have any tips for business owners on how to find someone and maybe when to start looking for a fractional CFO?
Well, probably like you figured out too, like when you get that first conversation with a client, like they're usually, when they need an accountant, it's past time. So because
Agreed.
every time, almost, I would say 80% of the time, they needed an accountant like 6 months ago. So yeah, that's one of the things that I would, I would encourage anyone to read about leadership and strategy. The E-Myth Revisited is a good book. It's Malcolm Garber. It's an old book, but like he pushes in that book. One of the first things that you outsource is admin, and that includes accounting, because the cost is low compared to what value you receive. If you're going to spend money on a full-time person in-house, you want that person to be in sales or in an operational role, those type roles. But you need someone, you have to get your house in order first. And to do that, you're going to need to fill that role of the accountant or the CFO. And you need that really for expansion or growth. That's the challenge too. If you wait and your financials need to be, they're 6 months before that you can behind, and you can't get a loan if you don't have current financials. So it's really important to start sooner and consider outsourcing that role early.
I think that's what's nice with outsourcing as well. You don't have to get a full-on salary. You can just be like, listen, we're starting out. I only need a little bit, but at least you don't kind of end up behind. So on that, your Proact CFO offers 3 services: bookkeeping, controller, and CFO. So maybe if you can kind of give us a bit of a view as to the difference between these, and if I was a business, what should I be looking at? Which one would I need?
Really, the core service that any business or any nonprofit needs is just the core books role or bookkeeping role, and that's really just to keep a current set of books. And like we talked about for like financing and audits and things that come up, that we need that before we even get into like real data. We kind of the stay out of trouble role. we need that covered first, and then we get into like the actual proactive data. And that's what that bookkeeper role is. It's just, can we get just the kind of the stay out of trouble role, if that makes sense, and then, yeah. And then the controller is really when we got, for us, that role is there's someone on staff that there's a point person on staff that knows, a little bit about the accounting role that we can coordinate with. And that's in that, probably past that 1 million in revenue range, US dollars, kind of that point, we move into that role. And then as you get larger, like a true SMB in the US, like we move into a real CFO, outsourced CFO role. And that's where our sweet spot is to be able to provide the advising with that as well.
No, amazing. I think, that gives us a good breakdown. Business owners can kind of see where they're sitting at. And on that, so you obviously deal with a lot of business owners. So anyone that's thinking of starting a business, what advice would you give them from a financial perspective?
Well, if you first and foremost, you have to define what's your product and your services and define it well. Like I follow Alex and Layla Hermosi on online, and they're really interesting to watch. They talk really push. Define your product. So first, what is your product or your service, and how do you get people, how do you get people to buy it, and then how do you make money? So if I'm starting a business, I'm figuring those 3 things out first, and then I follow that with, I've got to measure that, and that's where we plug in, right? As accountants, we plug in to say, did people buy that? service that you defined, and did you make a profit at it? And I would start, this is where that kind of like the measures that help you start and be a little more proactive. You get overwhelmed, too. Like you get, with SIFT, you can define any KPI you want, really. So you could, there's 40 KPIs, there's a lot. So you could create, you can make as many as you want. Yeah. So, and that can seem overwhelming. So in the beginning, like we recommend is like, just pick 3 simple, like we start with revenue, net income, and the cash balance, and that's simple. And I don't mean to oversimplify that, but you need a starting point that's not overwhelming, that you can look at quickly. And so I would recommend that, like pick the metrics. I like those 3, and then look at those weekly and figure out how to get your data. If you don't fill that accounting role and you do it yourself, just make sure you're keeping up with that weekly, because as you're starting an organization, you need that feedback so you can, because we all know we make a lot of mistakes in the beginning and we learn from those mistakes. And so you need to be able to pivot and adjust, but the data has to be fresh and current and
accurate. Wow.
And accurate. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so then there's probably accountants out there who are inspired by your story. So what advice would you give anyone who wants to start an accounting practice?
For an accounting practice, for me, it's really the same advising like that we advise, really any other industry. It's to start with your purpose, your why. And that for us is really important, is what are you doing and who are you doing it for? And we defined our mission. Like our mission is equipping organizations to invest, grow, and give more. And that's important to us. And so really your mission is not going to be the same, but you need to define that first as an accounting, starting an accounting firm. What are you doing and who are you doing it for? And that should really develop that mission. And you may shoot wide at the start, and then you're going to, as you grow and you learn and you pivot from, mistakes and from wins, then, you'll begin to narrow your focus. And that's the other thing with an accounting firm. We started with, which everyone in a small business does. You start with serving everyone. You like, I'll take whatever business I can get because I need to eat. So yes, so you take everything, and then you realize, like, when you start doing everything, you're not good at anything. I mean, I'll say that you can be good, but you're not great at anything. So we found that out really early, is we can't have 15 services, and then be good at all 15 of those services. So that's the other thing I would do with an accounting firm is narrow that focus more and more as to what are the 3 services we can provide and we can be great at, and that, again, you have to eat to start with, but
for sure. I know we are running out of time, but I still want to ask you 2 more questions. So the one, you said you're very excited about tech and you always like to try things. Do you have any cool tools besides SIFT, obviously, that you kind of use to improve efficiency or really help in your practice?
Yes, I mean that's great. That's great. It's great you mentioned SIFT, though, because we do use, and that's one of our core tools is SIFT, just because it helps us respond in real time. And we do like a weekly review with our internal team, and we use the SIFT overview of our companies, and that's one of the ways that we stay. We can respond in real time, and that's a great way that we use the SIFT tool. And then we also use and I would highly recommend any organization, especially accounting firms, use a project management tool along with that too, and a way for clients to communicate with you. I think clients now appreciate reduced friction in communication. You don't want to call an office, leave a message, get a call back in 3 days. But because a lot of times the questions are quick. If you have a project management system or a chat system where they can send a message and get a quick answer, you've had a big win, and just from a simple use of tech.
I think those are cool, like simple enough, doesn't have to be fancy tech, just such small things that can solve such big pain points. So thanks for sharing that. I think last question, because I have 1 minute left, is what would you like listeners to take away from this conversation? We've chatted a lot about tech and, advisory and training and all sorts of things. But what would you like them to take away from this session?
Well, I would say push your limits on your own abilities, because you will limit your firm based on your own abilities. And, there's the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership by John Maxwell. One of his laws is the law of the lid. And it's that you have a lid and you're the lid if you're the leader. So, and if you really want to grow and push your organization, you have to grow and push your own limits, and learn more, become more educated on KPIs and what they mean and how to operate, how to pivot from those, how to coach people and coach, customers. That's the biggest thing probably I would.
Sure. No, I think you've given us lots of good books to read and lots of good things to think about. And I think it's a shift from like tech or the day-to-day, what do I need to do to run my practice, and really investing in yourself to make yourself a better leader, helping your clients invest in themselves to become better leaders, and also investing in your team. So definitely I got a lot of value. I'm going to go listen back and find all those books you mentioned and read them. But thank you so much for taking time to chat to us. I think being proactive is definitely important. And as accountants, we should make sure our clients are. And as business owners, I think, if you are not being proactive, you know who to call, because the whole business is about that. So thank you so much for the time. Any last thoughts before I end?
No, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. And thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be back next week with another great episode. So bye everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Insights podcast.
Please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to right now.
And please share with any of your colleagues or friends or family members that you think might benefit from listening to this podcast.
That's all from us. Until next time, see you then.